Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome to a new reaction. As anybody who watches me, semi-frequently knows, I do take requests. It may just take me a little bit to get to them is all. And, yeah, this is very much the epitome of that, because today we're going to be reacting to BattleTech 101, The Great Houses of the Inner Sphere. Now, the thing is, this was actually one of the very first suggestions that I got from somebody who was, Helsing507. Yeah, so Helsing, if you're watching this, I'm very sorry it took me so long to get to here. But yeah, it took me so long because one, other things just, popped up in the way first, and two, the Black Pants Legion has a lot of BattleTech lore videos, and I didn't know where to start. It was only today, in fact, that I noticed that they have a BattleTech 101 video. So, yeah, that's entirely on me. I'm very sorry about that. But yes, BattleTech. I believe BattleTech is the setting that the Mech Warrior games take place in. At least I think that's at least I think that's how it works. I don't know a lot. I know it's sort of in the same vein as like 40K, where like society is sort of semi gone back, where like there's a bunch of like noble houses in space and all that sort of stuff. I think also like the joke I've heard is that the phone company started a religion, which I have no idea how that works, and I look forward to finding out. But yeah, BattleTech, I think I might have actually heard of BattleTech before I heard of 40K. It's just 40K kind of took off on YouTube before BattleTech did, and I kind of started learning about 40K more first. So I'm kind of excited to, learn more about this. I think I actually have a Mech Warrior game on Steam. What is it? Oh, never mind. BattleTech. It's just called BattleTech. The game BattleTech. I was originally going to play it on the channel, but then that, again, just kind of sputtered out and went nowhere. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I've been looking forward to actually, getting this started. So yeah, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And of course, if you like any of the stuff that I put out, whether it's reactions or Let's Plays, I would very much like it if you would leave a like and subscribe to the channel, just because, that helps the channel grow, helps, get my stuff out to more people, hopefully. So yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we? Comstar, is that the phone company? You have no choice, okay. Mech Warriors. Okay, thank you. Less than the Great Houses of the Inner Sphere.
Welcome, new Mech Warriors, to the Inner Sphere, where you can keep whatever money you find so long as you live to payday. For our first lesson, the Great Houses. Slide, please. So the Great Houses are the 6, or for people who can actually calculate projection power on an appreciable strategic scale, the 4 peer states, 1 remnant, and 1 hermit kingdom that make up the Inner Sphere.
Okay.
No, it's not a perfect sphere. Yes,
yeah,
there are things outside of it. Today we're talking about these assholes. These are the Great Houses of the Inner Sphere, and they're all very different in varying ways.
Of course.
Are mostly the same, in that they are all occasionally not very nice to each other. They also possess vast arsenals of planet-killing weapons, and on special occasion will trundle them out for public display. If you want to know why these people are fighting over such a vast territory and why they're so committed to erasing portions of their collective industrial base, history, and civilization, well, it's complicated. My best take on it is a two-parter, and most people find that a bit much. So let this serve as a base.
Wait, what did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
It's complicated. My best take on it is a two-parter.
Wait, current first. Oh, is this a joke or are these actual videos?
Most people find that a bit much. So let this serve as a basic introduction to your career in the world of Mech Warriors, and a primer on who's most likely to kill you when you inevitably fuck up. But firstly, a disclaimer. I am biased. As a mercenary plying his trade in the Inner Sphere, I find concepts such as warfighting ideology largely a position of what you can cover up from the general public. Mainly because, at the end of the day in the Inner Sphere, it's about you and yours, and smoking craters tell no tales. They make a hell of an autocannon.
Yeah.
But to better illustrate my point, let's just dive in. This map is from 3067. Maps from after that are somewhat messed up, for a number of reasons. And on an unrelated note, let's just brush this radioactive ash off here, and there we go. 3067. Don't mind the flickering on the screen, I'm told it's mostly harmless. Mostly. Let's begin with the great houses themselves. I'll be moving clockwise as we go, for those of you who understand time, and left-hand feed for people who understand timing.
And feed, of course. Combine and House Kurita?
Welcome to the wacky, weird world of the Draconus Combine. Welcome to a pervasive class system, and home to the galaxy's own homegrown, no-bullshit, sword-wielding, authoritarian samurai ruling class.
Oh, okay. I mean, granted, like, there are lots of points in history you can pull sort of, like, inspiration from, but a spacefaring civilization based around, like, Japanese and samurai rule? That was not my first on the list. Though, granted, the whole seppuku picture he showed earlier should have keyed me in.
Oh yes, this place is literally built off pre-spaceflight Terran Shogunate-era Japan. It's a monolithic, all-encompassing bureaucratic machine run on war and conquest that thinks optimal Christmas dinner is, by tradition, fried chicken.
Oh god. Right, yeah, the whole Japanese thing with fried chicken at Christmas. Oh, KFC, why did you do that to them? But also, I mean, the imagery of that one, like, cultural, like, touchstone, it, like, surviving up until, like, several hundred or thousand years, I don't know how much long in the future this takes place, but, like, to the point where that might still be a thing, I find that really funny.
They're a fun collection of ideas. Behold, this is their throne room.
Wonderful.
Take that in. This isn't just for show. This is their military. These are their uniforms. These are their mechs.
Oh, they're giant samurai. Oh, okay. I like them already.
Fight like this all the time. Yes, those swords are very real and do brutal work. Alright, so back to the guy in the chair. It is frequently a guy in charge of this. So this guy
patriarchal.
is called the coordinator. He runs the place. There is very little distinction between the coordinator as a person and the Draconus Combine as a whole. When people refer to the dragon in reference to Kurita as a house or a nation, it's interchangeable between the two entities.
Okay.
And no, the Draconus Combine doesn't celebrate the godhood of rulership with divine mandate. However, the coordinator's word carries essentially the same weight within their sphere of influence, so I'd not invite trouble, as Kurita tends to bury its enemies deep, headless, and by the million. They have no issues with troubleshooting in government, as trouble should be shot in the Draconus Combine. And if there is anything to fear from these guys, it's that they believe in a manifest destiny which involves House Kurita controlling everything. The Draconus Combine started as an agreement between two worlds, which was then fed war and conquest through House Kurita's leadership. Kurita has had total control since the beginning, aside from that one cadet branch that one time in the family who was wiped out long ago. As far as how this thing runs, well, the 5 pillars represent the Draconus Combine.
Oh, they're literally pillars. Okay. I thought they were going to be more metaphorical, but no.
The pillar of gold is the government. The pillar of steel is the military. The pillar of teak is the people. The pillar of ivory is religion.
Of course, it's the chicken.
Philosophy, Zen, and all that crap. And then there's jade, the economy.
Okay.
These 5 pillars of state philosophy are represented in the ministries of state organized through them. For instance, the Pillar of Steel encompasses the Ministry of War, the Department of Indoctrination, the Bureau of Substitution,
You know, you gotta love it when you have an authoritarian regime that just doesn't pull its punches at all. They have a literal department of indoctrination. But you have to wonder, doesn't something like that kind of lose its punch when it's widely known? Like, if you know there is a State Department of indoctrination, you have to know that it's, trying to indoctrinate you.
The Assembly of the Grand Inquisitor, the
Inquisitor's
Admiralty,
great.
the
Okay.
Physician Staff of the Dragon, and various minor administration
Whoever gives
authorities.
Theodore his meds.
Speaking of authorities, Draconus Combine bureaucracy tends to be impenetrable to outsiders, impossible to reason with, and largely maintains the status quo. Actual
about right.
decisions are typically made by people with significant military rank, in the form of military governors appointed to oversee civilian authorities. When in doubt, the decision maker is typically the one with the sword. And if you want to see that sword up close and real fast, you only need to fail to take its bearer seriously, or merely disrespect their presence. Also, they had this whole death to mercenaries thing for a while. Not my favorite government to work with. Then again,
okay.
They rarely need mercenaries ever, because the constant fighting and insanity of the samurai class means they're pretty much ready to throw down whenever.
Okay, so this whole... Okay, so they even have, infighting as well. Oh, okay. Oh, God, I'm just noticing now, their armor, it even looks like that, Oh, God, what's it called? You know, the wooden samurai armor that you... What is it called? Kusari. Chain armor or... Karuta. Small... Okay, so it wasn't wood, sorry. But yeah, little play... See, my whole thing with mechs is I very much prefer ones where, very much like MechWarrior here, where the weaponry is built into it, like you have the guns built into the arms. It's not a hand holding a gun. That's part of the reason why I've never liked the design of mechs from Gundam and stuff like that. I just don't see the practicality of having a mech that can be, relatively easily disarmed by knocking the gun out of its hand or something. I'd much rather have something that's much more like a solid, where it's everything is built into the thing. Granted, I can see the appeal of it, being very easy to replace and change loadouts and stuff like that. But still, I very much like the mech, not just giant humanoid robot sort of model.
If they lack a cause, they'll find one quick.
Yeah.
The leaders of the Draconus military are often peerless warlords, equally at home in local shogunal politics.
So they actually have warlords in there as well. Okay. This whole government structure seeming a lot less centralized by the second here.
Or on the battlefields of their neighbors. The Draconus Combine is the state that war built, maintained by Bushido, psychotic warriors, and a shitload of weapons. Finding the Kurita forces in your backyard is frequently the precursor to speaking Japanese in your near future, whether you want to or not.
Oh no. What is this? Federation
Next door is ruled by
Sons.
House Davon, the so-called good kid of the successor houses. The noble one. The one that likes autocannons a lot. That's these guys. Technically, the state is the Federated Sons, and they're another fun monarchy. House Davon is descended from English and French nobility, operating as constitutionally bound monarchs, and has been, since ever, trying to reinforce their position as champions of liberty and personal freedom at every annoying turn.
Oh,
Because
okay.
of this, most people think House Davon, and by extension, the Federated Sons, are self-righteous assholes.
Of course.
They're not wrong, mostly. But see, the story is a bit funny on that. Originally, the Federated Sons was a federation. In time, the founding polities chose delegates to form a high council who would, among themselves, elect a president to lead them. But the political machinations of the Davon family were all about having a monarchy, so they pushed the presidency into that, and since then, the Davon family has ruled.
Oh,
Which is
okay.
really good for them. Mostly good for the Federated Sons, and has worked out for the most part.
Oh, okay.
However, Davons being Davons, one had to rule them all. So there was an early Davon civil war.
Of
The
course.
5 marches had to decide for themselves who would be the first prince, and sharing was, apparently, not a serious consideration at any point.
Yeah, because who wants to set up an actual line of succession when you can just kill each other?
And the winner of that first early Davon Civil War, Alexander Davon, went on to pass more legislation than any of his predecessors.
One man, one
because
vote.
he had total military support. Turns out you can make people vote how you want with a bayonet. However, the story doesn't get any worse really for some time at least. To their credit, House Davon was not a despot. They encouraged then and still champion free speech, individual liberties, and personal freedom. But in the end, it is a monarchy.
Yeah.
Considering the mostly beneficial ruling arrangement, some will label Davon a father knows best state, which has many times but not always been justified in its actions. As such, it is seen as one of the more stable houses on account of broad public support.
Okay.
I will admit this, though they can be miserably righteous and
Wait a second. What? I need to see what did the head of that mech look like? Does this mech have an anti-air turret on its face? I love that. That is so stupid.
I will admit this, though they can be miserably righteous and annoying, they're frequently not evil, just smug. And yes, that is just as bad.
I mean,
The armed forces.
I'd much rather have somebody that's smug versus evil, because at least, they're smug. Smug is annoying. Evil is, hurtful.
The Federated Sons have historically been one of the most professional militaries in the Inner Sphere, originally formed from peacekeepers and always kept as modern as state industries could allow. These guys even developed the predecessors to the Warhammer on their own dime in the earliest years of battle mechs.
Oh,
Even when
okay.
they're wrong, they're almost right. Davon may not pay you well, but they won't bury you for no reason. Mostly.
Yeah, I can definitely see the merits of working for somebody like that. Oh god. Next group. Federation. Lyon.
Next door are these guys. I don't like them as much for a number of reasons.
Are they based off of Russia? I just noticed from the music. Either that or they're communist, given that that's very much Papers, Please music.
Capellan Confederation is the youngest kid on the block as successor states go. It's a socialistic police state that has almost but not always been under the control of one family, House Lyon. The head of the state is the Chancellor, who is, in the Capellan Confederation, one nod away from making you disappear.
Ah,
To
wonderful.
say that it is a police state is not an act of hyperbole, but substantiated fact. However, it wasn't always so. What started as a collection of states uniting for common defense and well-being slowly grew over hundreds of years through successive generations of philosophy and leadership from one house into an autocratic state with a centrally controlled economy. Some would say this is a functional dictatorship, but dictators tend toward having some sort of functional agenda or understanding of strategic power. But in truth, there's actually three forces that run this place, at least in theory.
Okay.
They are the Chancellor, the Prefectorate, and the House of Scions. The Chancellor is the CIC
House of
of the
Scions?
Armed Forces, Special Forces in the face of the state in matters of foreign policy. The Chancellor can also make decrees and legislative changes at will. It's a powerful position, to say the least, and
But not the ultimate. Well, I mean, he did say that still like a nod away from you disappearing, but the fact that there's two other... I'm gonna have to see.
has nearly always been a lifetime appointment for House Lyon.
Oh,
The Prefectorate is the body of state regional entities and greater nobility. The House of
Okay.
Scions isn't, mostly. Needless to say, the Chancellor seems to get his or her way more often than not. But the other two governmental branches will act to frustrate or block particular agendas. What's
course.
interesting about the Capellan Confederation is that its citizens, or rather I should say resident aliens born there, are not citizens. Not yet, anyways.
okay.
In fact, in the Confederation, citizenship must be earned, and the state is the sole measure of that esteem. Children are legally, in every way, wards of the state under limited provisional supervision granted by the government to their parents or other assigned legal guardians.
Wait, really? Okay.
At age 15, each child is thoroughly examined by the government to see if they have a proven commitment to the state. Those who are deemed worthy gain citizenship. Those who are not are given a grace period for a second evaluation, but failure to measure up as a citizen for any reason results in becoming a non-citizen, which are frequently referred to as state servitors.
Okay, here's the thing. I know I'm hearing a lot of stuff that like reminds me of 40K, like servitor and all that sort of stuff. And granted, I know 40K has taken a lot of stuff from other places, but this, oh god, you know, this whole thing, like the whole thing where like you're not a citizen until the state thinks you are. It kind of reminds me of, what was it? Starship Troopers. That's it. Yeah. Or I think in that story, or the stories, because there's a couple, I think. But you're not you're a civilian until you've worked in the military or some other, like state helping job. Like I think, of course, in the movie it was only the military veterans were classified as citizens. But I think in the book or something it said something about like anybody that works for the state, like it doesn't have to be military, you know, a firefighter, police, you know, that sort of stuff. But yeah, that whole thing, I mean, the whole thing with this, I can, granted, also, this is not a democracy in any way, so you don't get a vote when you're a citizen, you just don't die. Actually, you know, I was gonna go on a whole thing about how, like, the whole thing of, like, earning your citizenship while, like, service the state, and, like, your vote actually, you feeling like your vote actually matters would work, but that has literally nothing to do with this, with the Capellans, never mind, I should say. So I'm not going to go into it.
By the Succession Wars, this non-citizen class had become an enormous part of the population. A population that, I must state, had no rights and was legally state property. This was reversed in 3052 when Sun Tzu Liao became chancellor and abolished servitor slavery. Not all Capellan chancellors are assholes.
I mean, that's good at least.
Well, the record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
The military of the Confederation Armed Forces have traditionally been the underdog, but have never shied away from a fight. They frequently are pushed into doing far too much with far too little, and on top of it have to face the catastrophic political and military meddling of a chancellor who may or may not understand the difference between entertainment and war.
Yeah, the military is not your plaything, sir.
The fact that Capellan State has not been conquered outright speaks volumes to the abilities of the CCAF.
Yeah, especially given that, like, just from on the map, granted there were a couple of, like, other smaller little blobs other places, but this place is, like, I'd say almost, like, less than a quarter than that of any of the other, like, major powers in the galaxy.
Who have demonstrated battlefield insanity as a doctrine for nearly 8 centuries. The Capellan economy is centrally planned, and is designed on the principle that sufficient planning can overcome any hardship. This has produced mixed results.
I would imagine.
The Confederation always endures, but at what cost?
Where are we going now? Free Worlds League?
Next door is the Free Worlds League. I don't say House Merrick because, well, it's complicated. Also, their history isn't terrible as some make it out to be. Yes, the greatest threat to Americ is Americ, but glory to Merrick. But it wasn't always so. The Free Worlds League was actually formed before the Terran hegemony, born out of the early Terran Alliance's colonial struggles and then collapse as an early power. Your homeworld falling apart in early colonization was, well, somewhat on the catastrophic end of things.
Yeah, you think so.
Nations which weathered that catastrophe learned self-reliance. The Free Worlds League was originally an agreement between 3 existing nations, the Merrick Republic, the Regulan Principality, and the Federation of Oriente. Amazingly enough, the founders of the League owe most of their success to a guy named George Humphreys, who was the negotiator between the 3 nations, and was honored as the first Speaker of Parliament for 5 damn sessions. They didn't throw their negotiator away when they came together as a nation. They threw nobody under the bus. Instead, they championed him.
You know, gotta give them credit. That happens way too often in history. You know, good on you for, you know, keeping the smart people in charge. At least for a while.
That is righteous. So how'd it go down? You see, of the three nations, Merrick was on top locally, and Merrick didn't like the idea of a union at all, not at first. He thought it wouldn't work. Working with others seemed like a bad idea, in fact, considering the state of galactic affairs, but Humphreys wore him down, like a good friend does, and the only reason I bring this up is because what wore him down wasn't politics. It wasn't an appeal to power or glory or riches or conquest or the history books. It was in fact nerd shit.
What?
See, Detlev Merrick collected historic awards and trophies. Raju Salaj, Prince of Regulus, collected miniatures, figurines mainly, and books and paintings and the like. And these two guys nerding out about their neat stuff they liked and had collected contributed as much toward the founding of the Free Worlds League as anything else. Ostensibly, the Free Worlds League is a federal republic, with each province granted a grand measure of self-rule and sovereignty, and as you'd expect, the Free Worlds League is a complex creature politically speaking.
I would imagine, yeah, but the nerds are what united them. I love that. That is I've never heard of something like that in sci-fi before. That is awesome. I love that.
The Parliament is technically a supreme federal and legislative authority, but there's some caveats to that.
Of course.
For one, membership of the Parliament was, for a time, determined by the amount of taxes paid into the Treasury. And then there's the self-rule problem. All that self-rule means you have all sorts of people in Parliament. Some nations can be dictatorships, others a theocracy, others a democracy, and yet all under one flag. Naturally, this causes some problems.
Friction, I would imagine, yes.
That's why, for the most part, the Free Worlds League, through its history, has operated in a near-permanent state of martial law under the Captain General, who is frequently, but not always, a Merrick. Historically, the power of the Parliament has waned with every major conflict, crisis, or state of emergency, whereas the power of the Captain General has increased. That's right.
Of course.
The Free Worlds League drops their issues at Merrick's welcome mat, rings the doorbell, and runs the fuck home. I don't envy that job. Originally intended for military matters on behest of Parliament, 8 centuries of emergency powers later, the Captain General stands as first among equals, and is more or less House Merrick's personal lordship of the Free Worlds League.
Wow, okay. I mean, that's one way of eroding democracy, just abandon it.
With all of the hazards that entails. The Free Worlds League has defined its economic niche through innovative technologies and free trade, which I feel is a response engineered in opposition to the then crumbling Terran Alliance's blanket of tariffs and protective customs laws. The laissez-faire approach to the free world's economic principles has made more friends than enemies. However, poor risk management analysis has caused problems. For instance, after conquering the magistracy of Canopus during the Reunification War, the Free Worlds League invested oceans of currency, industry, and effort into rebuilding the Canopan economy. Canopus returned the favor by outcompeting and underbidding the Free Worlds League economy in the region, by mostly using principally cheaper labor and lots of industry they didn't have to pay to build. This resulted in a 10-year economic recession for the entire Free Worlds League.
Oh, wonderful.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Great.
Since they've learned quite a bit, and have managed their economic affairs with care to guard against the systemic mayhem and shock as caused by other states, good intentions or not. Culturally, the Free Worlds League is a mix. In fact, it is probably the most diverse state there is in the Inner Sphere. The principal language is mostly a derivative of Star League English, but on any given world you might hear Czech, Arabic, or Urdu. With the sheer number of cultures and political systems present in the Free Worlds League, it must be said that if there was anything that unified them, it was not a Merrick, but more an ideology. And that's entrepreneurship, a belief in the free market, and the idea that anybody could make it if they tried. It was from the prosperity of the Star League that this philosophy grew, I feel. The succession wars didn't dampen their spirits either. It merely made them appreciate what they had, and encouraged them to continue fighting for it.
Okay, so he keeps talking about, like, previous wars and stuff like that. I'm gonna have to see if he's made a video talking about that sort of stuff, because thinking about all this, like, I want to find out what happened to Earth and what led to all of this.
And maybe each other from time to time, because hey, glory to Merrick. Next door is the one people make fun of.
Lyon
and for some of
Commonwealth?
the right reasons. Welcome to the Lyon Commonwealth. First of all, few call it that unless they're...
Royal Guards have... Oh, okay. I mean, that's one way of protecting him if you don't want to, get hurt by, explosives or something like that.
declaring war or arranging marriage, which, if I'm frank, might be the same thing in the
He
same
needs to behave. Yes, I
afternoon.
would imagine.
So welcome to the House of Steiner. The Steiners are the ruling family and have been since virtually ever. They were founded as a merchant and industrialist conglomerate. They never stopped being exactly that.
Oh.
They celebrate their vast wealth by having far too many nobles, far too many noble titles, and historically largely incompetent generals.
Ah, wonderful.
Save for the occasional flash in the pan, that is. However, if they're strategically incompetent to the point that the concept of their scouting parties operating vastly excessive tonnage, even in modest probing actions, memes based more on truth than you think, then how do they survive, you ask? Well, money and industry, friends. Money and industry.
If you throw enough stuff at the wall, some of it's going to stick.
House Steiner's backing is the industrial base and every bank that invested in it. They are the military-industrial complex. There are many good reasons they can afford to dump truck weapons into a situation, operational or not, piloted or not, and then continue to do so until the enemy leaves. While not stupendously famous for warfighting leadership or tactical brilliance, House Steiner can and will bury you with its vast assembly lines led by pretend generals until you give up or they get bored.
Oh, God. I don't know who's more terrifying, these people or the samurai?
Tragic comedy of their strategic planning is mostly covered by the sheer power of their pervasive economy and vast military industry. In its early days, the Lyon Commonwealth was headed by 9 archons as patterned off ancient Athens of Terra, because early post-Terran colonies were like that. Very, idyllic. Then one guy deposed the other 8, decided to establish the Estates General to run the show, and finally hammer out some agreements on what rights meant. And it's kind of worked out. Technically, the Archon of the Lyon Commonwealth is an absolute ruler, commander-in-chief of all military forces, and can unilaterally make most governmental decisions with a modest nod. They run the show. They even hold the right to grant and remove noble titles in perpetuity. Titles which hold significant power. So they're a ruthless autocrat, right?
They ruin somebody's children. But, in perpetuity. Jeez, okay. So that just means, it doesn't matter what you do. You can never do that. You can never you or your descendants can never get the title again.
Not really. Most archons of House Steiner, aside from a few notable assholes,
a nice lady,
extensive covering in what I will likely label a historical diss track, are mostly okay people. They delegate most decisions to the bureaucracy, the councils of state, appointed advisors, and the Estates General, and they typically just keep their heads down, or just go to the Solaris thing. Right. The Solaris thing. So there's a bullseye in the inner sphere in the murder for entertainment business, and it's right here. Solaris 7. This is pretty much Steiner in a nutshell. But I'm not an expert in these matters, so I'll turn it over to a local. He can sum it up better. Mr. Fisher, take it away.
Okay.
Solaris 7 is the only place where you can pay money to watch 2 strangers beat each other to death, while also enjoying a corn dog.
Duncan, that's not true. Canopus exists. They have corn dogs last I went. And a very good Outback.
Corn dog.
I think Canopus banned trans fats, my dude. I've only ever seen funnel cake. Oh, and they do a lot of food on a stick. Saves napkins, less to clean up. Stick food is really the way of the future.
Stick food is the way of the future.
Wish we'd thought of it first. Sticks truly are the yardstick of food. I'm Duncan Fisher, and I stand by this statement. Sticks are the future. Mark my words.
Duncan, this is costing me a fortune.
Okay.
Oh, right, HPG bills. So, Solaris 7. Murder is more or less very legal, so long as you do it in the box on TV, and everyone has a really great time. In fact, it's fantastic. There's explosions and music, and I'm there. Every night, on every screen. I tell you all the things I think you need to hear, and most of them are very accurate.
Okay.
Very, very accurate.
Right.
Anyways, this is Duncan Fisher.
I'll take
signing
your word
off.
for it.
And this appearance cost Professor Tex 1,485 C-bills.
Thank you, Duncan. Steiner space is a complex thing. Not good, not evil, just very big. In fact, I think that the Lyon Commonwealth is much like a cosmic horror. Some giant, blind, idiot god, just waiting there, happily making money and strudel, singing merrily to itself until someone comes over and flips the table. And then it becomes very, very upset.
Oh. Oh, this is the anime. Okay. Okay. Man, but that's a description, isn't it? I mean, describing a state as an eldritch creature, that's... Oh, okay. Never thought of something like that before. Oh no, are these guys Vikings?
Anyways, moving to our right, because space has that, we have to talk about this strip of the inner sphere that's been nothing but hell. We're not talking about these a-holes here, because they're not from here, or rather, not recently.
What?
These are the clans, and for those uninitiated, they're a strange, deep space civilization of state-mandated, eugenics program, warrior caste, combat cult weirdos.
So they're the Imperium from 40K.
Even by our standards, they're very weird. They also got completely wrecked by the phone company. It was a pretty okay time. For us, that is. So, here's what remains of the somewhat free Rasselhog Republic. So these guys were a thing, briefly, until these guys decided they shouldn't be.
Okay.
Because they were between these guys and Terra, which is controlled by the phone company.
So this video is probably where the whole thing, the phone company owns a religion thing comes from.
Who wasn't cool with these guys taking a bite out of everything on their way to the telecoms HQ for very odd, strangely specific, quasi-spiritual reasons, which for very different, strangely specific, quasi-spiritual reasons, the phone company decided to murder them. Guys, as it turns out, you can make people show up to an ambush by just asking them. Remember, be kind, it pays dividends. Before that unpleasantness, Rasselhog was a state come from the space between House Kurita over here and House Steiner. These Kuritan buffer worlds were, before Kurita came along, an independently free principality of mostly culturally Scandinavian colonists.
Okay.
The small state was then overrun by House Kurita, who had to pry the worlds from them after 30 years of guerrilla warfare. They didn't go quietly. They were always a somewhat fiercely independent border region who resisted assimilation into the Draconus Combine. Over time, and some phone company intervention, Theodore Kurita was convinced of the benefits of creating a buffer zone between the houses of Steiner and Kurita by granting Rasselhog independence. Some of Kurita's guys were so mad at this that they resisted the government, and Kurita had to fight what was called the Ronin War. After Old Man Kurita gave his rowdy warriors the belt, Rasselhog became essentially a neutral buffer between the two superpowers of House Kurita and House Steiner. They were independent for almost 2 decades before these assholes came in. And
only
in
2
end,
decades, really?
More. This much of them survived as a rump state under the custodianship of Comstar until 3070, when Clan Ghostbear more or less took them in. Because Ghostbear is of a similar cultural background and understands the importance of family. Good people mostly.
Oh,
Kinda
okay.
Clingy, though. For the record, Rasselhog was not a paper dragon. They collapsed only after fighting bravely in the face of overwhelming odds. They gave the clanners a hard fight on every world, and in the deep black between stars. It was a Rasselhog pilot who kamikazed the Ilkhan's warship and stopped the invasion for a year. Rasselhog is like that. They'll smile all day, but fuck around and the Viking comes out, and it doesn't stop until you or they are very, very dead. Next up, I have to talk about this. This was once the cradle of humanity, but it's been a hotbed of a lot of historical issues.
One would imagine.
The first circuit of what was called SL Comnet
SL Comnet
was laid out in this chunk of space once called the Hegemony. Then, well, there was this guy named Jerome Blake, and as fate would have it, he'd be the last employee of SL Comnet. But some assholes in time would think that everything that poured out of his goddamn mouth was the word of...
Oh. The last employee. So wait, does that mean the rest of it's just fully automated?
Right, so I guess next time I have to talk about the periphery, then the deep periphery. Great. Goat, play me out. Team, show these people how we pay our bills. See you next time. Stay safe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely want to find out more about this, about like the world of BattleTech. That is, again, the fact that like what essentially was the phone company started a religion. That is weird. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look around on Black Pants Legion's channel, see if I can find any more of these, like, find any more, you know, like 101 like lore videos. But yeah, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And with all that being said, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Oh, far away from the light of terror, the remnants of another era. Join the crew, grab the crew, it's a damn periphery. We're full of pirates, cultists, rednecks, and opus girls look great and ladies. Join the crew, grab the crew, it's a damn periphery. We're stuck in the periphery, oh no, oh yeah. Ain't too much tech to be found here, at least it's not the inner sphere far away.